Welcome to the Commissioner Conversations for Teens. I'm Harriet Williams. I'm your moderator for this session. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsor for this session, which is A Productions. The Bristol-based animation production studio is known for its work on the multi-award-winning Jojo and Gran Gran and Love Monster for CBeebies, and for its Sesame Street specials. The studio is currently working with Cyber Group Studios on Digital Girl for the BBC and Super RTL. A Productions is proud to support CMC once again. The CMC depends on the support of numerous sponsors to help create such a lively and varied conference, and they are particularly grateful to A Productions for their support. So, for the final Commissioner Conversations for this year, we'll be hearing from broadcasters catering for teen audiences. They'll be revealing their taste, tone, their hit shows, what they're looking for, their favourite TikTok dancers, I'm assuming.
Yeah, obviously.
So we will be hearing from each of our panellists for 5 minutes, and then we will have a chat about it before opening up to questions from the audience. So we're going to first please welcome Cerys Griffiths, Head of Content Production for BBC Education.
Thank you, Harriet. Good afternoon, everybody. It's lovely to be here. I've never been to CMC before, so it's great to be here. And it's great to be talking about the very thorny issue of the teen audience as well, which we all know is very difficult to crack. I work for BBC Education in children's education, and our main platform is BBC Bitesize, which is probably one of the platforms that does reach teenagers through education. So Bitesize is a curriculum-focused straight to the student support from 4 to 16 to support them through their learning throughout school. And sort of this time of year, back end of a couple of months before this, we reach about 2 million 14 to 16-year-olds a week. And on average across the year, it's about 1.6 million a week. So we do have reach with that age group. And we've just this year launched for the first time some revision podcasts. In quite small, I can see the editor, them over there, Una, hi Una. And it was in quite a small way. We did it in collaboration with BBC Sounds, basically just dipping our toe in the water. We did English literature and biology, and for its first go, it did really well. We got about 185,000 requests for them across both platforms, that's Bitesize and Sounds. So that's sort of the Bitesize curriculum bit. What's probably less well known about Bitesize is we cater to other parts of student need. So we have Bitesize Careers, which, as it suggests, is all about the jobs you might want to do post-16. So we have a big sort of library, essentially, of really inspirational content about all kinds of different jobs. We also have lots of information about post-16 courses and apprenticeships, as well as advice about CV writing and interview skills and things like that. So that's Bitesize Careers. We also have something called Bitesize Study Support, which, as the name suggests, is about supporting students to study. And essentially, it's lots of tips and advice about how to do your homework, about how to revise. It's very popular during exam season. And we do a lot of peer-to-peer stuff. So we work with a lot of 15, 16-year-olds or slightly older who've been through it before and get their advice on how best to revise and all the issues and how you look after your well-being around that. And Bitesize Study Support also looks at student well-being. So that's a slightly broader subject. So if you're struggling with your mental health or you've got issues around bullying, there's lots of great content on there to really support you through that. And we also have launched a new initiative last year, and it's a bit different from curriculum, study support and careers, in that those 3 topics are really about what the student needs. So they come to us because they have a need. They need to do their homework, they need to revise, they're being bullied or whatever it might be. We launched last year something called Other Side of the Story. I think it's on the slide there. And it's an initiative aimed at tackling all the misinformation and fake news that is out there in a young person's world that they're constantly bombarded with. And it's more tricky because it's something that they don't know that they need or that they want. There's been lots of research done around this, and it's been shown that young people are particularly susceptible to misinformation and to fake news, and also that they aren't aware that it's a big problem and that it can be detrimental. So you've got to get through the barrier, first of all, that they don't even know there's a need around this, let alone reach them in any other ways. And so that's the other side of the story. And the reason we went into that space is partly it speaks to the BBC objective around impartiality, but also because of that need, because young people are particularly susceptible, and also because we know that teachers really struggle with this topic. And it's a big issue in the classroom, lots of discussion about things that they see on social media in the classroom. I think a really good example of that is the rise and influence of people like Andrew Tate. That became a real issue in the classroom for teachers. So there's a need from the student point of view, but there's also a need from the teacher point of view. So we launched an initiative that would really try and help address that. And we've tried to do it in sort of 3 ways, really. We tried to provide content that teachers can use in the classroom. We've also tried to reach the students through social media, through TikTok and Instagram. And we've also done we've worked with 13 schools across the UK doing 4 workshops in the classroom. And we particularly selected schools that were in areas of high deprivation, because the research also shows that in areas of higher deprivation, the need is even greater, the influence is even higher of misinformation and fake news. So we've been going into those schools 4 times across the year, doing what we hope were really fun and engaging workshops, teaching them sort of critical thinking skills, showing the impact that a lot of the information they've been bombarded with can have on their brains and why they react to it in the way they do, and also giving them some harder skills around how to make their own content, so filming and editing and stuff like that. And we learned a lot from doing that, because I know we want to talk about superpowers potentially, but our superpower has been able to go into those schools and talk to those students on an ongoing basis across the space of a school year. And we learned so much about the kind of people that they'll listen to, the kind of content that cuts through with them, really what they don't. We went in there with a big long list of people we thought would be great talent to use for our content. We came out with about sort of 90% of those names scored off and an entirely new list. So it showed what we knew before we went in. And they're also, it's kind of, because this space moves really rapidly, going in there across the year gave us this focus group that, we could evolve with them, we could change as their tastes and interests changed. So I guess what we learned was that they like things that everybody else likes. They love to laugh, they like to be made to laugh and entertained, obviously. They love a good, powerful story. They love anything that's gamified. They like quizzes, particularly about themselves. That's a really good way to engage them. But what we mostly learned was we have to constantly keep innovating and keep a pace with them, which is hard, we're sprinting to keep up. And that, even if we find a format that works once, it doesn't necessarily work again the next time. So it's having that constant connection to the audience and keeping talking to them, keeping testing things with them, and constantly sort of coming back to them and sense checking stuff with them. I was talking to one of my fellow panelists before on the clip, the sizzle reel that I'll show shortly. One of our biggest hitters on TikTok was somebody called Alex Heath, who was, I think he's a TikToker, and he did a rap for us, which is all about how fake news impacts your brain. And nobody would ever have thought that would be of particular interest, but it was actually one of our biggest hitters. I think to date, it's got 2.7 million views. And we thought, amazing, let's use him loads. And then we got him to do some other stuff on a less, like we thought would probably be engaged. I think it was greenwashing we got him to do, and it got 3,000 or 4,000. So you have to sort of, sometimes you hit on the right formula, but it's not actually a formula, it's just a one-off, and he did a really great job, and you've got to sort of find the next thing you want to do. So what do we look for? We've got a lot of content already on the site, both in careers, study support, and other side of the story. What we're looking for is if you go on those sites, on Bite Size, and find that content, we're not looking for the same sort of stuff. We're looking for new stuff, really clever. Everybody says this. Really exciting, clever, innovative stuff that really will engage them. But we want stuff that will complement what's already there. And we want stuff that's kind of draws people in but makes them want to stay and move on to other things around our platforms. So we're looking for short-form content that will really cut through in what's an incredibly busy space for them, stuff that will probably translate into social, help bring them back to site, and and just sort of move the bar for us a bit about what will excite young people and what will make them laugh about this subject. It's very much we want they like to have things explained to them, but it's very much subliminal learning. They don't want to be sort of talked down to. They don't want to be it doesn't want to feel like a formal lesson. As you'll see from the tape, it's very much about kind of learning by sort of default. So primarily we want them to be entertained and engaged. And at that point, I think it's probably a good time to show the reel.
fake news hijacks your brain pretty quickly. This is the amygdala. It's part of the brain that generates certain emotions, mainly pleasure, anger, or feelings you get when you are faced with something that you might see as a threat.
Hello, Sarah. You ready for your firefighter's apprenticeship?
Firefighters? Well, I thought this was an emoji drawing job.
It's so important to check your list of exams the day before. Give yourself enough time to get ready and get prepared.
Is that going to change the opinion of any of our guests here? Just one person, move.
Did you know that exercise can help with your mental health and overall well-being? This can have a positive impact on your mood and even your studies.
Who has never drunk alcohol?
Michelle Obama.
Donald Trump.
There are loads of profiles on here. Just use the search bar, okay? Give it a go.
Hello, a very good morning to you and welcome to BBC Breakfast. I'm Lily Arthur. Our headlines today... Hold on, Lily, there's something wrong with your mic. Sound are on the way and check it out now. While we've stopped, can we get makeup in? Lily's looking a little bit shiny under the lights.
Stop right there.
Look at that. Absolutely delicious, fresh, great flavour, straight from the earth.
Amazing, thanks, Cerys. Next up is MacDonald, Development Executive in Channel 4's Digital Commissioning Department.
Thank you. Well, like all good 5-minute pieces of content, I'm going to start with the best bit, a sort of teasingly out of context vignette, which will hopefully hook you in, and then I'll follow up with the rest of the intro after. So my vignette is that it's happened to me several times now that kind of partway through a meeting with a producer, the producer sort of stopped, inhaled for just a minute, and then kind of really remarked how kind of creatively liberating it is to kind of develop content for teen audiences with Channel 4, and they've kind of commented on how liberating they find our kind of remit, which is to maximize humor, entertainment, or audacity across our content. And as this audience will know, kind of developing programs for teen audiences is challenging, fun, rewarding, and also so important. And I'm hoping that by the end of this session, you'll feel kind of inspired to reach out and start a conversation, and maybe we can commission something on Channel 4 digital platforms, end of vignette and into the content. So I've got some stats here. So Channel 4 is the youngest skewing public service broadcaster. 4 out of 5 16 to 34-year-olds are registered with our streaming platform, and we reach more young people than any other commercial broadcasters on-demand services, and our push to digital has made Channel 4 a real destination for young people today. So yeah, I'm Hanzla. I work in the digital commissioning team, where we commission the best content for teenage audiences direct to the social platforms where they're spending their time. So those are Channel 4 run channels on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and TikTok. Everything we commission, I'd say, has to have 3 things in common. So one, it's got to be optimized to the viewing habits of those platforms. 2, it's got to be aimed at young and teen audiences, and we adopt a kind of watch-up strategy, so we kind of commission content that feels aimed at young adults but is age-appropriate to younger teens as well, with the idea that younger people tend to watch up. And then the third thing is that our content's got to be driven with Channel 4's values. We're a cross-genre commissioning team with everything from scripted series like the BAFTA-winning How to Be a Person to one-off docs like the Lovey-winning The Boy with the 8-Hour Heart, although with most of our output being unscripted 5 to 10-part series, and that's the shape we're keenest to be pitched to as well. And now I'll outline some of our commissioning priorities. So we're commissioning for Channel 4.0, which is a brand across YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat, which we've created for natively digital teenage audiences. And last night, Channel 4.0 won the Best Entertainment Channel at the Broadcast Digital Awards, which we're very excited by. Thank you. For Channel 4.0, we're looking for entertainment formats, which are hilarious, mischievous, and often authored by the UK's biggest creators. UK teenage culture has become a trailblazer in what's popular online, and 4.0 shows need to speak authentically to that culture, and at this point I can play a bit of a sizzle.
I am gonna love this.
Yo, hello.
Hi guys.
Yes, my people. What's happening?
It's your girl, Nella Rose.
I'm your boy Spud.
And I'm America Foster. I'm Graham Mack.
I'm Francis Bourgeois. It's your boy Ty Logan. It's Mr. Finero.
It's Adjola Patron.
I am a witch.
It's Chunks and welcome back to
Channel 4.0.
What?
Nah. What school did you go to?
Just 4.0.
Oh, just 4.0.
Can our competitors make it across the finish line with their outfit box fresh?
You might think it's easy, but it's not.
We're gonna hit the streets
To fill up these bad boy vans with man them and yard them.
One team is getting on the plane.
Let's go!
And the other is going home.
That means you lost, bro.
One person will lose control of their phone to their mates for a full hour.
I'm going head to head on the go-kart track.
Let's go!
If they lose, I get their shoes.
Can I have 5 minutes, please?
Welcome to Driven.
This is the baddest prank show, and it sees me and my girls go head to head. The aim of the game is to make each other tap out.
I've secretly nominated 4 people who don't know each other, but they do know me.
I don't get it. Why would you invite me?
Could have got locked for the sickle. Driver got me sitting on the arse for a little.
If you laugh, you drink.
You piss, then you lose. Don't piss yourself.
Listen, I'm here for the dub, yeah? That's all that matters. Welcome to the secret sauce.
So you must have chefed loads then, innit?
Yeah, toast.
You are a terrible student. Shambalaya! If you want to see more episodes, you know what to do.
Don't forget to subscribe to Channel 4.0.
4.0.
Channel 4.0, baby. We're out!
Thank you. And we also commissioned scripted and stand-up comedy for the Channel 4 comedy channels, with an interesting comedy with a kind of late-night feel, which is maybe politically punchy or is orientated around stunts with purpose. And we also commission factual and documentary content for the Channel 4 documentary pages, looking for incredible access. Our department has also embraced branded partnership opportunities, and we're looking for factual entertainment and entertainment series conceived for social audiences with AFP potential. And often our branded partners are trying to reach family audiences, so producers with expertise of working with children and content aimed at family audiences are particularly welcome partners in that space. And then I'll end, like a good 5-minute piece of content with a call to action, which would be to ask you to drop me or one of the other commissioning team an email, which is a great way to get to know us at first port of call. And also I'd say that our commissioners are also based across all of Channel 4's regional offices, so we may be nearer to you than you think, and are keen to access kind of diversity of thought from producers across the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Hans. And finally, James Reevell, Executive Editor for Youth Audiences at BBC iPlayer and BBC 3.
Yep. Hi, I'm James. I'm Executive Editor for Youth Audiences at BBC iPlayer and 3, which is a bit of a daft title, but it's a great job because I basically get to think about how do we reach every young person across the UK, going from 13 to 34, really. I think we've got a bit of a sizzle reel we can show you.
She's so iconic, get it, so iconic.
Welcome to paradise.
She's so iconic.
Ding dong, darling.
Iconic, the way she moves, she's so iconic. She's so iconic, get it, so iconic. Get it, so iconic. The way she moves, she's so iconic. Watch me move, I'm so iconic.
It's been a hell of a year.
Never seen nothing like this.
Is this velvet?
Hey, what up, people? It's Jason Derulo.
I'm Becky Hill, and I'm so excited.
Let's stick it to the Patreon.
Never seen nothing like this before. Never seen nothing like this.
Thank you. So yeah, under 35's huge priority for the BBC in general and for iPlayer. Are we talking about BBC 3 today? Mostly because it's more fun and anarchic than any other part of the BBC, I think. So it's a good talking point. And also, I think most interestingly for this audience is absolutely essential to reaching teen audiences. And is also really focused on reaching the teen audiences the rest of the BBC doesn't serve. Like, we know Strictly will bring in a big teen audience, but we're really focused on reaching heartland, or beyond our heartland audiences. Our ethos is unfiltered and unrestrained entertainment and drama, something RuPaul's Drag Race delivers every year, I can say, having worked across it. And one area we're really proud of is actually how varied our slate is. Like, if I were to say what is a BBC Free show, it's probably a show that's going to reach a specific community. But actually drawing the Venn diagram between all those shows is actually really tricky. It's one of our biggest challenges, actually connecting the dots between each show. I mean, trying to find someone who's a fan of Rap Game, Conversations with Friends, and Shards and Sunderland is quite difficult, and they're probably quite concerning to me, I'd say, as well, if you actually did find one. We want shows that are noisy and feel like first in the UK, but also represent different voices and communities. We've just had I Kissed a Boy, which is the UK's first gay dating show, and we're just incredibly pleased with reception from that. Not only from audiences beyond the gay community, but we're really delighted that the gay community sort of really backed it, and also said that we didn't just take a chance on doing a gay dating show, but actually we truly represented what it is to be queer in the UK. And the other thing I should say is, the brilliant thing about BBC Free is we have our linear TV shows, but also our digital teams just always are extending the reach. So, I mean, I Kissed a Boy is a great example where we commissioned a survey, I think it's one of the UK's first surveys into what it is to be a gay man in the UK, to try and like place out actually what is it like to be gay. We also commissioned elderly gay men to give life lessons to young gay men to sort of show the change and sort of, you know, really mark the fact it's a seminal moment. And we also did a content partnership with Grindr, where every Grindr user in the UK got a message saying, "Watched I Kissed a Boy," which, you know, is a hard thing to explain to your wife when you wake up and check Grindr on a Friday morning. We're also really excited about comedy. Like, when comedy is strong, BBC Free is strong. It serves a dual purpose for us. It's really great, we know, for teen audiences, but also it's brilliant for sort of getting people hooked into iPlayer and really using our back catalogue. We've had Man Like My Bean return. We've got Bad Education last year as well. And we've also got Northern Queens launching yesterday. Really recommend watching that show if anyone hasn't seen it. We also do a huge amount of comedy talent development. We've had, I think, 12 big comedy shorts this year. Several of those have now gone into scripted development, so we're really excited to see what comes from those. The other thing that we're really keen on is shows that change the perception of what the BBC is. Like, we know that we need to show audiences that we are different to mainstream BBC shows. So when we look at like Meet the Khans with Amir Khan and Fariel, and Charlotte and Sunderland with Charlotte Crosby, those are really important shows for us because they bring a totally different audience and they totally change perceptions of the BBC. So we're always looking for shows like that. The other thing that's really important to Free is unique documentaries. Like, you know, it's a real sort of our heritage, our legacy. Like, we've always been great at that, and it's something that we sort of really see positive continuing. We do great celebrity-led documentaries. You know, we've had Leanne Pinnock exploring colorism. We've had Professor Green explaining mental health. You know, with James Arthur doing mental health as well. So we've got a really rich heritage. We also do really amazing authored docs, like last night. Unfortunately, we were pipped at the post for Best Education Channel by 4.0, but we did win Best Current Affairs for Sexomnia, which is an incredible film. I really recommend people watching it, but probably the best thing about last night was seeing Jade, who actually is the author and the protagonist of the film, and has actually been a victim of sexual assault. It's a really tough story, and she did this incredible job of holding the CPS to account, actually changing their opinion and documenting the whole thing herself. But to see her go on stage and accept the award, I just thought, this is brilliant. This is exactly what a public service broadcaster should be doing. And it was a really proud moment for all of us. Thinking about the concept of teens, we're really interested in content that kind of ages down. We have a very similar viewpoint to our friends at 4.0 about this. We also sort of try to find shows that we think really naturally do this. So Glow Up is a really good example of that. It's a show that sort of works for all ages. You know, it has a youth audience, has an older audience as well, and we're really pleased about that. And the other thing about Glow Up is it shows a really nice side of BBC Free, like it's such a kind, warm show, so we're really pleased with that. The final thing to really say is being in the social space, being in the space where teens exist, is really baked into BBC Free. Obviously, we went digital beforehand and, you know, had to become very noisy on social. We got our TV channel back, which is great, so we're noisy on that as well. But to us, it really is like we have to inhabit the spaces and we have to take the social into our TV as well. You know, we often see influencers coming to work on our shows. It's really brilliant. And we really love blurring that line. Last week, we just broke Book Talk, I believe, for a Good Girl's Guide to Murder cast announcements. So we're really excited about that. And we've planned loads of big plans to just keep documenting that production. And we're really excited about that show. But also, as you saw in the clip very briefly, we do some really weird stuff, like we did ASMR for Drag Race last year to try and take Drag Race into the ASMR community, which may not seem like natural bedfellows, but we were sort of convinced it was, and it had a really great response. Do not use it to fall asleep, as ASMR instructs you to, as it is deeply offensive. But yeah, I don't think I've ever had someone whisper, "Go fuck yourself" at me before, but that's like an actual thing that happened. But anyway, I think it really sums up BBC Free really nicely. Actually, we want innovation, we want new things, and yeah, we're always searching for the new, but if we can tie that into a specific audience, specific community, you know, that's really the ethos of Free. And that's me.
Thank you, James, and thanks everyone for your intel. It's a really helpful starting point to get to know what you're after, what you're looking for. To start with, the conference theme for this year is Power Up, so it'd be really great to know what your most powerful show on your slate in the last 12 months is. Cerys, what would that be for you, and why do you think it works so well?
We don't have shows because it's short form content on digital platforms. I think that rap probably that I mentioned before was sort of the big surprise for us, that a rap that talks about the impact of fake news on your brain could be so successful amongst the audience. But we're always, you know, we don't do, we have content that's like episodic, if you like, that we've put on the site in one go, that can cut through. So there's stuff with the comedians around comedians doing real jobs. That did really well and was really nice stuff for our careers site. But we don't want one thing just to cut through. You know, we're constantly trying to get messages of different types across. So we want things that will always sort of capture attention. But it's always really nice when you get a 2.8 million kind of result on something.
Yeah. Han, same question. What was your most powerful piece, do you think?
Yeah, I'd call out Harry Pinero's Worst in Class. There was a bit of a clip of it in the sizzle. And I think what stood out about that series, aside from incredibly talented creators and a great production company, was the world building. Often on 4.0 we talk about that phrase quite a lot. So it's a quiz show set in a school detention essentially, and we were referencing the mischief and naughtiness that people associate with detention, particularly teen audiences, like very relevant to their lives. But the ability to kind of tap into that atmosphere of what it's like to be messing around at school in detention, that world building, I think, was one of the defining elements of that series.
Nice. James, you mentioned a few quite powerful shows. Would one of those be your pick, do you think?
Yeah, I think it'd be like Kissed a Boy, or either that or the Dangerous Rise of Andrew Tate, because I think that was a really special documentary we're really lucky to acquire. So I think that, you know, is a really important public service that we sort of managed to get that into the UK. But yeah, I Kissed a Boy, I think, is just, you know, why didn't it happen sooner? But we're sort of like, we kept looking like, this can't actually be the first gay dating show. And then we sort of looked back and went, oh, there have been other ones, but they're so problematic, we probably wouldn't call them a gay dating. I mean, well, sort of entrapment, perhaps, is a better way of describing them. But yeah, no, I think that, and the response from the community, and also seeing just the way that everybody who came into contact with the show embraced it, and it felt like a real sort of step forward for society that we could have that, you know, and I feel Free is really pleased to be a part of it. So I think the fact that we can sort of keep returning and showing different communities, we're really excited about that show.
Nice. It'd be also great to understand sort of what the last 12 months have been like since we last did this panel. You know, have there been some big changes? I mean, James, you're back on the TV. Not you personally, but I'm assuming. But
one day.
Yeah. So I guess it would be good to know what other, like, if there have been any other changes and how that's influencing what you're doing.
I mean, I think for us, particularly looking at the teen market, it's the rise of other platforms around us. Like, I think we look at our SVOD competitors, because, you know, Free, we have our TV channel. That was a huge change for us, and I think we are just sort of settling down into that now, actually, sort of what is it to run a TV channel, and also a really unique TV channel. But I think looking across the landscape and what's influencing us is, you know, YouTube is just growing. TikTok is, the rise of TikTok in particular, in terms of, like, you know, it is a true competitor to us. And also, I think the continued rise of gaming platforms, sort of Fortnite and Roblox, like, it does feel like we are competing with broadcasters, but even before that, we're competing for people's time. And, you know, if people are watching a smaller slice of TV to begin with, it's a harder and harder thing. And I think for us as a youth channel, how teen audiences are changing and how they're changing so quickly is probably the biggest thing. Like, what will next year be like is kind of quite scary, actually, and exciting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, better to look at it as exciting. I'm quite scared, but that's just me. Cerys, what about you? Have there been big changes, or is it...
Well, I suppose as I was trying to say, we are constantly changing our approach because the audience is constantly changing. I think TikTok is probably one of the, the young people use it as for a search engine now. They don't Google anything anymore. They put it in TikTok. So it's, from our point of view, we rely on Google search. How do I pass my GCSE geography? That's going into TikTok now, not into Google, and not finding bite size. So those are that is that's happening in our world. But I think, we are, as an organisation, as James and I, we're embracing the social platforms. We're sort of going into their world and trying to sort of adapt to it. So, there's a lot of opportunity there as well, because I think, before the rise of TikTok, there was a bit of a kind of, well, they're not on Facebook, some of them are on Instagram, they're all on Snapchat and you can't get to them there. So, actually, there's an advantage to that. But, yeah, working in short form, I think the advantage of that is that you can experiment fairly cheaply and you can innovate fairly cheaply, and so you can keep learning across the year, and that's what we will continue to do.
Nice. Hans, you've had it's now all 4, and 4.0 is your big change. Is that, I guess, a part of discoverability and that consistency across?
Yeah, well, there's 2 different things there. So we're rebranding our streaming platform, was previously called All 4, will be called Channel 4 going forward as a brand unification kind of exercise. And then, yeah, you're right, in the last 12 months we launched Channel 4.0, which is, as I mentioned, become Best Entertainment Channel at Digital Awards, so a huge achievement. And to go from 0, 8 months ago to winning awards is, it's been a really big year for us, I think.
Nice. Has that helped with discoverability, you think, and getting stuff in front of teen audiences? Yeah, so we're on social platforms, so discoverability is everything. How do we do that? By creating content that just grabs you from the first second to the last second and continues to grab you every few seconds as well through thumbnails and search terms and all of these things. But from a content point of view, it's just got to be regularly attractive and have lots of beats to it, the formats that we commission. Nice.
It is great just seeing that many creators put together, and in combinations you don't expect. Watching on, it's really exciting to see what 4.0 is doing.
Yeah, we really lean into this idea of friendship groups and ready-made friendship groups. So the UK's biggest creators are genuinely friends. That's how they grew up. They grew up and then they all jumped on YouTube, etc. So we want to tap into that, and actually our audience feel like they're mates with them as well. So friendships the overriding theme, I think, of Channel 4.0, and it does lead to really interesting combinations as we throw new people into those friendship groups as well.
Great. The audience here are likely most interested in, what your commissioning priorities are. It'd be good to know if there's anything you're not looking for as well. James, if we start with you.
Not huge. Again, because we are a truly multi-genre channel, it's fair to say that as you get into sort of things like dramas, the bar is higher because we don't have that many dramas a year, and they are commissioned very far out. I think the priority for us is sort of either talent that in the situations you wouldn't expect, or again, reality-based talent where, again, going back to Charlotte Crosby, we really loved that show because it shows a totally different side of her, but it's a name that brings you in the first place, but it adds value. Or again, it's kind of formats that are totally unexpected and are kind of all our most successful formats are unique, like Blow Up, Rap Game, I Kissed a Boy, Drag Race, they're one of ones. And I think that's probably the thing we're most focused on, along with docs. I think docs are still really important and growing more important for us again, actually. I think they're so important for teen audiences.
Cerys, what about you? Anything?
We're not after anything that we've got already, I guess, but we're constantly looking for new ways of getting messages across, sort of engaging short form content. Talent's really important, obviously. It tends not to be BBC talent, so we're looking for people to sort of come to us and tell us who we should be using. And kind of it's that innovation word again. What's the clever ways you're going to attract teenagers' attention about subjects that they maybe don't think they're going to be interested in. So yeah, we're up for anything. And as I say, you can, you know, they're sort of, the commissions are much smaller than drama for BBC Three or whatever. So, you know, we can try stuff out.
And you were saying you got, you know, great intel for when you do the workshops in school. Is that really helpful in, you know?
It is. I mean, we tend to sort of put briefs out there, so it's not often that we kind of, people come to us with an idea and we sort of commission it less that, although we're open to that. But we do use a lot of that. So people that understand the audience really well come to us and tell us things that we didn't know or understand.
Okay.
Really helpful.
Cool. Hans, is there anything that producers should know or keep in mind when pitching, do you think?
So, like I said, we see YouTube as our hero platform for most of our content, and therefore, you know, producers should understand that platform. They should watch the content. They should understand the editing rhythm of a kind of YouTube content. They should understand the conventions and the trends. We also do commission to other platforms, you know, and the same applies. So, do you understand Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok as well? But an understanding of platforms is the first thing people should understand.
Are you able to utilise a lot of content across multiple from the same bit of content? Or?
Yes, we do a mixed bag. So sometimes we will put stuff out on YouTube, and then we might do a reversioning of that for another platform. But more often than not, we take that concept and then create bespoke assets for different platforms.
Right, nice. So that you're keeping that in mind from quite early on, I'm assuming.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Cerys, obviously, you're quite covered on education. It's in the job title. But what about you two? Is there any sort of education needs for your content, or like even like light touch, like you're learning type?
Yeah, I mean, I think us, it's public service values like that are resonating with our audience. Like, I guess when we prefer to do it is, we prefer to go in sideways to it and very light. So again, for us, our celebrity-led docs are really important for that. Sort of, you know, having Joey Essex explain grief to you doesn't feel like a natural pairing, but is a really powerful documentary. But gets people in to watch it. I think that's the main thing for us. Like, we're always sort of saying we want content that makes people turn up and tune in to start with, because that's when we can start educating them. So yeah, I think light touch for us, or intriguing different ways of doing it.
Hans?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if something like Harry Pinot's Wilson Class could be on BBC Brightside. It's set in a school. It's a general knowledge show. You know, you learn things by the end of it. Light touch education, but particularly for 4.0, what we're looking for is entertainment-first content. And for our other platforms like Channel 4 documentaries, YouTube page, again, that kind of light touch education, but you're learning through experiencing.
Great. You've all quite mentioned how quickly teenage audiences are changing. Do you consider that to be the biggest challenge, or is there something else you're more scared about?
The biggest challenge, probably that, and yeah, the sort of the competing. I mean, I was just reading an article before I came on here about AI and Google, and the fact that it's going from asking a question to answering a question, so the way they scrape the data. And so if you're, again, the GCSE geography, if you're searching for GCSE geography, it says on Google, it will come high up. If it's if they're using some sort of AI to scrape our data and serve up the answer to them, rather than just kind of giving them some suggestions where they might go for the answer, then that's quite a threat to us. So there's, you know, innovations like that, kind of, you've got to find the opportunity in it and find the way of protecting yourself against it all the time. And teenagers tend to be at the forefront of that kind of stuff. Yeah. You know, when one other piece that really cut through for us was we did a little film about the new AI bot on Snapchat, because I think what's really key to catching the audience is constantly being aware of what's important to them, and that was it was released onto Snapchat and everyone was talking about it.
Right.
So, you know, I think you just have to keep your ear to the ground, basically, all the social listening tools, all the SEO sort of investigation that you do around it, and sort of keep pace with them.
And what about you? Any other big challenges?
Yeah, I mean, just on the thing about changing teenagers, I mean, Channel 4 released a publication called Beyond Gen Z, and the tagline is something like, everything you've been told about Gen Z is wrong, and it was basically really kind of confronting a lot of the like stereotypes and nuancing the picture about what teenage audiences are like and what they're after, and actually it's less kind of polarized than sometimes like mainstream media would have you believe. So we feel like we have like a good understanding of like what teenage audiences are looking for. In terms of challenges, I think for us it's then delivering that. So, for example, our favourite creators we love to use, everyone else's favourite creators who they love to use. Like, I'm sure the same creators sort of appeared on all our content, and it's nurturing and creating those relationships so that they want to work with us as well. I think that's something that we're really focused on.
Yeah, I'm smiling because we did both have a driving show with Mist in it,
Right,
so this is a very direct example of that competition.
But he's doing both, so that worked out.
Yeah, we would want double Mist, to be honest with you. But yeah, I would agree. It's all the things together. It's the audience is changing so rapidly, so trying to create content that they like, and also, you know, with television taking a while to make, like it feels like what you commissioned 2 years ago or a year ago, like is that still relevant to an audience? And yeah, then distribution, how are we actually getting to the audience, how are they discovering content, because that's evolving. And then again, we're competing with everybody, and it's not just competing for talent, competing with streamers. So it's just like a really evolving marketplace, and it feels like you're always reinventing yourself. But I think that's kind of the history of it, isn't it? I think we all said the same thing for millennials. And
I don't know about you, but I never feel as old as when we're discussing teenagers and what they're doing and what I'm not doing.
You never feel as old as if you work at BBC Three. It's a perpetual pain.
On the other side, what are you most optimistic about, or is it sort of like the other side of the same coin type thing, would you say?
In terms of like what weird sort of plans we have, I did want to give a shout out to, I mentioned it in my intro, but we do embrace kind of branded partnerships, and why I'm optimistic about that is because I think it's, you know, an innovative way of getting funding into broadcasters and delivering quality content to young audiences, and some of the projects that we're greenlighting in partnership with brands are just fantastic creative proposals with Channel 4 editorial kind of values and bigger budgets, so we can do more exciting things. So I'm optimistic about like how we're doing things differently from a like financing point of view as well.
Yeah. James, any other exciting opportunities?
Yeah, I think TV's never been better, has it? I mean, that's, you know, it's like we're in a golden age of television, so I think there's loads of optimism. We've got like, you know, the whole creative economy. We're seeing like Gen Z are probably going to be the most creative generation ever. So I think it's, you know, if you work in the media making that type of TV, it's super exciting to see that come through and see how, you know, what all the TikTok generations start to make. I think that's super exciting. And I think the other thing for us is, you know, our sort of controller Fiona has sort of really aggressively said like we are around the UK, and sort of we really do commission from people that we never would have commissioned from. We get different ideas we never had before, and seeing those come to fruition is super exciting. Like Fast and Farmerish is coming back soon, and you know that's a Northern Irish show about extreme tractor racing. Like, great, you know, and we just didn't get ideas like that before, and we didn't go out enough around the UK. So I think that's super exciting. That's just going to continue. And I think, you know, BBC as a whole has kind of really got on board with properly commissioning outside of London.
On your first point, there's a sort of confluence, isn't there, between the creativity coming from people making like YouTube content, TikTok content, and broadcasters, and it's a kind of like merging of creative minds, which I think is like quite an exciting like pool to be dipping from and process to be part of.
Yeah, and super difficult. Like, because it's just so hard to get, you know, that I think you're totally right. We're in the stage at the moment. It's all just sort of like good stuff is coming out, and everyone's working out how to work together, and something like totally different will come out from that, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
Great. It would be really great to know from each of you how producers can pitch to you, and sort of if there's a official process, and what's like a rough timeline of when they can expect to hear back. Cerys.
So on the BBC commissioning site, we put briefs up there. I think there's some up there at the moment, not particularly for the stuff that I talked about today, but other briefs on there. You can email me, cerys.griffiths@bbc.co.uk, or Andrew Swanson, who's the exec across our team portfolio, andrew.swanson@bbc.co.uk. a lot of our stuff, because it's short form, is quite quick turnaround. So, you know, we'd expect sort of to hear from us really quickly, because we're, you know, as I say, we're always running to keep up. So, yeah, we like to do quick things super fast.
Great. Hans?
Yeah, probably start with an email. So if you Google Channel 4 Digital Commissioning, our page will come up, or email convention at Channel 4, sort of first initial surname at channel4.co.uk, and then that will lead to a conversation, and we can you know, give you steers and help you with your ideas. We also have kind of briefings that are sort of more industry-wide, probably next one likely in September. And in terms of timelines, I mean, we commission monthly, so every month we'll commission some stuff. So yeah, so it's sort of year-round, really.
Great. James?
Yeah, the pitch system is always the sort of #1 way for us, which you can get to via the BBC commissioning website. I'm also happy if anyone wants to drop me a line, I can connect you with relevant commissioning teams again, because we work across genres. We work through genre commissioners who you'd work directly with. So I can connect you or connect you with our channel editor, Naz. And then in terms of if there's anyone who's sort of not part of a production company, there are also schemes such as new directors schemes, which are different ones from genres. We have writers' rooms. So again, it's all on the commissioning website. There's too many to list out now, so just go have a hunt for them, I would say. Or again, drop me a line. And in terms of timelines, I'm going to blame it on the different genre commissioners and not. But yeah, we do commission throughout the year as well. We're always on commissioning.
Amazing, thank you. Thanks, everyone. I think we can now open up to audience questions if anyone's got any. There's one just here.
Hello, yeah, I'm John, independent creative sort of producer. So it's mainly a question for Hanzla and James. The comedy and teen combination seems to be a clear swipe right. However, when you do comedy, teen, and then add in the word animation, historically in the UK that's more of a swipe left. Why do you think it is that the UK can't crack teens and animation and comedy in the same way that we've absolutely massively cracked it in the world of preschool?
Yeah, we run a channel called Mashed on YouTube. It has millions of subscribers. It's been going for years, and it is animation based in gaming culture for teen audiences, and it is wildly successful across YouTube, Snapchat, etc. So we have a bespoke platform exactly for that audience and that type of content.
Yeah, and I'm not an expert in it, but I think it's hard. It's probably the simplest answer. Like if you look at sort of adult animation and teen animation, like there are those massive franchises like Family Guy, Simpsons, Bob's Burgers, but there aren't that many of them, and I think we just find it really difficult to land them. Like I think we have maybe got a few things, but yeah, I think it's just like a really difficult genre to land for some reason. And, you know, again, also it's expensive and it's time consuming to make, so I think, you know, it's harder to have quite a few shots to sit to try and land one. You know, BBC Three was built off Family Guy. Like I think, you know, it's like one of our most iconic shows. It's certainly what I remember watching growing up. So we would love to have one back. It's just I think they're really, really difficult to find.
Is the commissioning process for the YouTube platform the same as your other content for the animation?
Mashed is run by a production company called The Connected Set, and if there are independent creators in that field, if you go on the Mashed YouTube channel, you can find the follow-up email contact for producers who do that every day. But yeah, it's definitely a great resource if you're in that area.
Okay, cool. Any other questions? I can't see. Oh, there's one just there, yeah, in front of the big light.
Hi there, and Moline from Ben and J Kids and Family. First, just want to say I really enjoyed seeing those show reels. I think it's the strongest offering specifically targeting teens that I've seen in a really long time. So I commend you for doing a great job serving that audience. My question is, what would need to change for British broadcasters to consistently commission scripted shows for 13 to 16-year-olds in the same quantity that we see shows commissioned for 6 to 12-year-olds and 18 to 24-year-olds in scripted content?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and it's a tricky one. I think part of it is, you know, teen audiences they do split a lot, and it's quite hard to actually target them. Like, the difference between a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old is so vast. So again, actually, you're almost, with commissioning directly to teens, it feels like you're commissioning for like 2 years rather than kind of, whereas, you feel like once you're over 16, you're commissioning up to like 35 almost, or 40, and actually you often find, when we have a big youth title, we'll also see that has a big older audience attached to it as well, which is great. All views are good views. But yeah, I think it's something we're increasingly aware of, and we're thinking about BBC Three, how do we do that? And often for us it's like, can we make shows now that again are appropriate and can age down? And again, like going back to Glow Up's unscripted, but it's great because actually it's a show that appeals to 24-year-olds and could, would appeal to a 13-year-old, I think, as well. And it's because the topics in it, the nature of the entertainment, it means the topics in it are suitable. So it's a really tricky one because it is a hard one to crack. And the other thing is, we do see teens catered for in other types of programming as well. Like, places like Strictly have a massive teen audience. It's just seen as another show, but, really big, broad shows will get to teens. But I think how we create content specifically for teens is, it's a challenge we're sort of, actually, we are doing a lot of work on at the moment. So maybe we'll start to see more of that coming through, but it's trying to find, like, how it's cost efficient. I don't know if you guys are in a similar sort of boat.
Yeah, we commissioned some scripted things, some comedy scripted content. Most of our output is unscripted. As a digital commissioning team, we are trying to make content that is optimized for the platforms that we are on. And if you think about TikTok and Instagram, those are platforms which are predominantly unscripted kind of creators doing their thing. So we're more likely to be pursuing what they're doing, and that's sort of our strategy, is to make content that fits the platforms that we're on. But like I said, we have our scripted comedy output as well. It's lesser.
Okay. Have you got time for another one? There's one right at the back and one there. We can do both, I think.
I just wanted to follow up on what Ed said, because I really agree. I think if you look at those audiences from like 12, 13 up to 16, we're sort of losing them. I mean, they're migrating over to your Riverdales, to your Ginny and Georges, which are really not quite appropriate for them, but there's nothing really servicing them. Or they're going back to Friends or Casey Undercover. And I just would really love to see something coming out of the UK that is for that, like, really good, fun comedy, drama, something like that would be for that age group, which is maybe co-viewing, I don't know, but it does feel that there's a gap. And with kids in that age group, it is quite depressing. I was just having a conversation before lunch that, Ginny and George's series 2 landed at the beginning of this year, and it's all about self-harm. And we were talking about how the first season was fine, and then suddenly it just went way darker, with no warnings or none of that kind of safety net that you find on broadcast or, your channels. So I would really encourage you to sort of look at that space.
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely a space we're looking at. Like I think I was saying before I came on here, that all I'm doing at the moment is thinking about teen audiences, which, interesting because my job theoretically goes up to 34, but under 24 audience, and that teen audience is, there is a real risk of that audience, not only just losing touch with the BBC, but losing touch with television, and, you get, as you said, that sort of type of content that is sort of a bit more regulated. Obviously, your stuff is also from that same sort of ethos, but there is a danger of that. I think it will change. I think we are recognising it, and we have shows again that may not feel like they're directly targeted at kids. But Waterloo Road was, at the front of everyone's mind, was aimed as like a teen show. Like we had it really at its heart, and it was marketing was really focused on young audiences, and it's had a huge response from young audiences. So even though it's like big BBC TV show, actually it is a youth audience show, which is brilliant, and I think we'll see success in that, and that will let us build into other ones. So yeah, I hope, watch this space. But again, TV takes a while, unfortunately, so we just need to move quickly so we don't lose them.
I think you have another couple.
Hi, I'm Dominic Parry from 3 Hours Media, based at Media City. Just a question for Cerys, and this is a two-parter. Cerys and James, have you co-commissioned anything? And if not, would you? And then the second part of this is, Hanzla, what would you dread to see them both commissioned together as a force?
I've got stuff I can think of that I would dread us commissioning together, all beginning of Drag Race.
We support a lot of BBC Three programmes, and the docs that James has talked about. We often do like second platform stuff for that. You know, if there's an issue raised in something, we will, you know, do sort of a further online journey around it. I think there is potential there because we were discussing it beforehand. You know, we do have an audience on Bite Size and you know, all the questions have been about 12 to 16-year-olds because they are the trickiest ones. You know, the teen audience goes to 19, obviously, but sort of 13, 14, 15, 16. They are coming to us for lots, you know, for in their hour of need is sort of how we then move them on to stuff that they'll sort of want to use. So I think, you know, already we've got Andrew Swanson, I've mentioned, is involved in the same meeting as James is, so we're connecting more closely now, aren't we? So I think there's opportunity there. We're not going to say what we might commission that will scare other people.
No. Yeah, I think because we've commissioned Phoenix Rise was a...
It was children's education, yeah.
So that was broadcast on BBC Three, and, you know, it was supported across BBC Three promotion as well because we knew that our audience, we really wanted, you know, TBC wanted that to reach an older audience, and we knew that our accounts hold that older audience, so we knew we really had to help with that. And I think that's increasingly what we are looking at. And again, as you were saying, it feels like with education, because of the brilliant work you guys do, we're really strong in that audience, actually. And to us, it's also about how are we doing informative and entertaining programs. Like teens deserve to have programs that are fun and make them laugh the same as the rest of us do. So, yeah, I think there will be lots more collaborations, because it's something that we're all thinking about. If you can like nick our talent, that will fill me with dread. So just anything that increases the competition for the amazing creators we love to work with, it sort of fills me with dread. Yeah.
Fair enough. I think that might be all we have time for. So if we could just say a huge thank you to Hans, Cerys and James for their time.